Good morning, traders, and a very happy Tuesday out there to everyone. And a happy Halloween also out there. The last trading day of our month here for the month of October, so that's another good item to take into account. But with that said, we also want to just take a note as to what we have on the calendar here for today here. And for the most part, we're fairly light. We do have a piece of Canadian data out at 8:30, and then we have employment cost index out for the U.S. as well at 8:30. And then at 9 o'clock there, just before the opening, we have a housing figure for the U.S. And then lastly, after the opening at that 10 o'clock Eastern, love consumer confidence there at the top of those first 30 minutes. So we have a couple items in the queue to be aware of, and then also, like we said, it'll be the last trading day of the month, so good to keep an eye on those fixed income markets there in case they give us any extra gyrations to work with. But with that said, we'll come over here and jump into these daily charts now, and we'll start off things here with our S&P, which we know came into some short-term balance during yesterday's trading. In other words, we had put in a 3-bar balance mode after having been on an extended run to the downside, or good persistency of trend with consecutive closes on one side of the 5 SMA. We did do some testing above it yesterday and proceeded to leave a bit of a tail and then closed just briefly on the other side of it. And now in the Globex session, of course, we are putting in a Globex high currently here. We're, putting in this test here as we speak, but 41.99 and a quarter here currently is this Globex high, or the overnight high that we'll have to work with. So love that going on. What we did not see is the retest or test of the 42.05 during yesterday's trading. We left a bit of a tail, but didn't quite fully get up there to that Thursday high. So as far as the daily charts go, 42.05 would be that Thursday high, just to bear in mind. So balancing act, so far we're working on a mild low to high action, just haven't quite taken out the full-blown Thursday high there, but not too bad, and trading slightly above the previous day's high. So as far as the daily charts go, just briefly on the other side of the 5 SMA, on the other side of the previous day's high. So those will be good points of interest there for us. 41.9750 there is the previous day's high. So you can see we're smack on it right here as we speak in this early morning session. So as far as the daily composition, that's what we have going on that side of things. However, on the 120-minute display, we could also see the rhythm that we've been having. We know that we had our little, quasi loss of momentum that had already reverted back to the mean. So we proceeded to, make our full test down. And then during yesterday's trading, we had our, little reopening there from Sunday night and proceeded to trade, low to high. So it's giving us the same feel of being above the previous day's high. However, if we come up any further, for one, we'd be dealing with that 42.05 right in this vicinity. That's where we had that reopening there. And then any further up above, I just kind of maneuvered a point of interest just slightly above that 42.05. It still will serve us quite well, but 42.15 just from being the original cycle low that we had formed before then, forming a bit of a continuation pattern. So nice boundaries here. Kind of watching this 120-minute display here for the ES. If we carry the ball, up too far, we'd be really dealing with the 42.05 first, and then further up above there, we'd be dealing with 42.15, just as being our points of interest to perhaps see if the market responds to or pauses at all on any type of further up. So not a bad showing though, and as far as the ES goes, have an open door for some better range expansion to go out there today, just because we did form that balance. And then moving on along here, we have that of the DAX here. Also, having formed its balance act during yesterday's trading, the same kind of 3-bar breakout mode to that of the ES. The only difference is that the DAX had not been on the extended run to the downside like we've had there in the E-minis. So it's not too dissimilar here. With that of the DAX here, we'd have, last week of Thursday's high up there. But not too bad as far as their little basing action that they've been putting in. You can see a little bit more contained than that of our ES, which has been moving with some larger range bars. But with the DAX, you can note we have the same feeling of the reopening there from the Sunday night, and proceeding for the most part to trade low to high. So as far as the dailies go here, if I squish this up just a notch, we got this 14,903, which would be kind of the 2-day high up there. So they're giving it a pretty decent test. But as we can see here from the hourly charts, still not quite in the clear as of yet. They haven't really truly broken out in a very large way. So outside of that 14,903 up above, we'd see, for one, you got the big round number of 15,000 that we could certainly deal with, but 15,020 is a little bit more of a significant zone there as a nice previous reaction high there in the DAX. So not too bad. We'll see if it wants to follow tone at all with what we have going on there in our S&Ps. But with that said, we scoot on to our next one here. Let me see if I have this organized here for us. Just gonna bring us over here another chart just so we can take a little look here at this euro currency, which had its nice breakout from the 3-bar balance mode during yesterday's trading. Let's get this guy framed back out here. So not too bad, nice low to high bar. So on the close yesterday, recall that we were mentioning seeing if we could test towards today's high on the following day, 1.06465. So we did proceed to get that out of the way. We got good follow through overnight, so good in getting their follow through from the breakout from the 3-bar. And as we can see, obviously during the overnight session, it was pretty steady on its movement there. So we bear in mind that we have been marked up, and basically that Europe session was very strong, low to high there. So we have that going for us. And any further up, what we'd essentially really be dealing with here is this previous area where we had, of course, the sharp up and sharp down. So not a whole lot of time was spent developing that area. So in the overnight, we did proceed to get good follow through, nice markup, and filled in a good portion of a lot of these extra blanks here. So a little shy on getting fully up there to the 1.07 mark, but what we can keep an eye on is see if this euro currency, consolidates at all, if it's going to continue and perhaps form a continuation pattern. In other words, perhaps a 15-minute flag here in the early morning session. We do have a couple data points, but overall not too bad in the euro currency. The only thing we have to consider is that we had a lot of action already unfold overnight, so a good portion of the play of getting the follow through from yesterday has already unfolded. So that just was taking place in the overnight. So we'll see how they handle that U.S. morning, what type of movement we get off of that 8 a.m. reading there. So EC, not a bad showcasing there of some good strength overnight. And then we have the gold here. As we noted yesterday, we did have a couple markets that formed either inside range bars or 3-bar balance mode, so the gold was another one that had that feeling. Gold, however, still on the extended run to the upside, almost inverse of what we have going on there with our S&Ps. So as far as the daily goes, inside range bar yesterday, 5 SMA here on the dailies comes in at 2003.7. So we did test beneath it in the overnight session, did not close beneath it, or have not closed, I should say, since we're just kind of starting our session, but continuing to maintain its markup. It's not looking half bad. Of course, now we'll have these two tails from yesterday as well as the Globex session. So this 1999, which we'll look at a second in this hourly chart, would be a caution area down below in case we started to fail at all in the gold. But obviously for now, not the case. If we blow up this hourly chart here, we know that we had a nice showcasing of good strength from last week in the gold, right? Our impulse bar. And we can see what we've been building out here. A nice consolidation, and more of a complex consolidation, an ABC type of wave, so a 2-part wave. And as we came down, this 1997 was played around with quite well, and we did a decent job of defending it. So I know it's a little bit more of a narrow range, but you got 2012.2 as being this nice visible high from the hourly charts with several tail areas there, just to bear in mind. So we had left 2 tails up in that zone, so we'll see. Nice boundaries, though, for the gold. 1997, this would kind of be more of a cautious area if we started to stall out and fail to, take out the upside and then came back below. That would be a little bit of a cautious area, but clearly holding above that for now. So I would see 2012 there would give us a good feeling of, getting some good follow through and still maintaining the bid there to the upside. So see there about the gold. Bigger picture daily charts, still on the extended run, just formed a mild amount of balancing during yesterday's trading. And then we have the crude and the bonds to wrap things up here. The crude should be a very important one there today because we did have it move outside of its balance yesterday. We did come down and trade below 82.08, so we had that go for us. Overnight, we did proceed to lift up mildly, and we've been sitting here with this hourly configuration, right? Good damage that was done from yesterday, so you can envision we'd have some structural work that looms up above that will likely act as resistance on the first try up. So with that, this previous day's low will be very key there. That 81.82 there in the case of the crude. So should we take that out, that wouldn't be a very constructive look for them. But essentially between this overnight high that we put in of 83.29 and 81.82, some nice boundaries there to work with there in the case of the crude. But a little bit bigger picture, more importantly, yesterday they did move outside the range, and we know we've been working with all this bar overlap as of late. So we'll see if they really have enough momentum to carry themselves outside of this 4 to 5 days of good price bar overlap that we've been having there in the crude. So we'll keep this one on the radar. Should be one to keep a nice close eye on there today. And then lastly here, before our little 8:30 Canada point there, is that of the bonds, the 30s. Also had formed themselves the balancing act yesterday on the close, the 3-bar balance mode. So so far overnight they're getting a little bit of a head start. We'll see if they're able to maintain it all. But we have this nice 110.16 visible there from 2 separate points. That was the high from the trading on the 24th, as well as the high on the trading from the 25th. So 2 data points up there. Outside of that, we could see that same feeling here on the hourly chart. So in case the bonds reach up at all, that's essentially a pretty well-defined region that we would be looking at there. And then just for kicks here, for those that keep an eye on the yield side of things here, we can go over to the TYX.X here on the trade station and take a look at the 30-year yields. We were noting that we were getting a good amount of play on both sides of that 5% handle there. And of course, this goes inverse against the bonds. So as the bonds move up and test a little closer towards that previous week high there, the yields as well, taking that into account and just dropping slightly below that 5% threshold there. So they've been kind of playing around quite a bit, as we can see, with that round number of 5%. So we'll see. Obviously, coming into the session, we'll have a small gap on the yields to bear in mind. This is just how it looks from yesterday at that end of the day. There, the old bonds pit settlement, and as to where we're opening, so we kind of closed yesterday 5.038%, and we're opening here today basis the yield. So it's just the 8 o'clock reading at 4.964% there in those yields. So gives us a nice little zone to work with there. Any closer towards that 110.16, we'd want to see how the price responds to any movement closer towards that. And with that said, we're going to get these charts dialed back up here. We'll get the ES loaded. We have a mild data point to be aware of, and then we will have the captain to look forward to there. Damon's review will be coming up in just about another 30 minutes there, so then we'll have his lay of the land for the day, and then we'll be smooth sailing for this day in front of us and see if we can put up some good numbers there today. So we'll let this settle in and see what we have lining up here for the day in front of us. But should be a rather good one here. And once again, it's the last trading day of the month, so we'll keep an extra watch there on the fixed income markets, since they tend to like it to have extra gyrations on those beginning and ends of the month there. So just a little separate note. But with that said, we'll let this point get out of the way and carry on with our trading day here.